The third question, which is, do you need a social media policy? And again, the answer to this question is certainly yes. Now, why? Here's why you need a social media policy. If for no other reason, to provide some guidelines to employees and staff and the patrons about who can use social media, under what terms and conditions. Just some questions that you might be talking with your library administrators, and you'll ultimately have to involve legal counsel. What type of access are we going to allow employees to social media? And of course, the initial question is, are we going to allow access through library computers on library time? I'm chairing a committee for the Utah State Judiciary where they're looking at the issue of whether they should allow employees of the court system to access social media during work hours on court supplied computers. So do you allow, right now they block it. No one on a court computer can get access to Facebook or to LinkedIn. I think our committee recommendation is going to be that that's kind of an antiquated view. It's an archaic view. Employees are probably going to do it anyway. This has already been a big issue in the private sector. First, the private sector started. Remember, years ago they used to have cigarette breaks, where people go have 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon to go have a cigarette break. Well, some employers said, well, let's have Facebook breaks, and we'll give, tell the employees you can't use. It's a big. For those of you who are on Facebook, it can potentially be a big time suck, and so people are worried about loss of productivity because everyone's on their Facebook page. Right now, just in the last month, the last information we have, the majority of private companies now allow employees to access their Facebook or their other social media networks during work. But who should be allowed? Should all employees be allowed? Should it only be library administrators that are allowed? Should we allow access to just Facebook, or should we also allow access to other social media? Are we going to allow employees to create their own social media account? You probably want to control about that. What is acceptable use? Can it only be incidental? Can you use it for professional development, like LinkedIn and other things? Does it have to be work-related, or could you use it purely for personal purposes? There are all sorts of security issues that need to be dealt with as well as ensuring compliance with the laws. And then there's a whole new layer of questions that are raised if you allow patron use. So say you have a Facebook page. Do you turn on, enable the comment section? Or you have a chat room or things of that nature? Do you allow patrons? And what about children? And we'll get to that in a moment. But at a minimum, you should have a written social media policy so that you can provide clear guidelines to potential users. And another reason to have a policy is because it can be the tool to educate employees about not only the benefits of social media, but also the dangers of social media. And I'm sure you've all read about people who get fired because they've posted something inappropriate on their Facebook page or something of that nature. I tell people, remember this: Google never forgets. Google never forgets. And young kids are finding that out now when they're out applying for a job. And of course, what is the first thing every HR manager does? Google them. Maybe even ask to accept a friend request or whatever. And then there's this funny photo that was really funny at the time, about 10 years ago, but still out there in the web, and it's not too funny now. So having a social media policy, obviously if you have a policy, that gives you an opportunity to train employees about a policy. So it's an opportunity to educate the employees not only about the benefits, but the dangers of social media. Because if you're a librarian and you identify yourself as a librarian, even if you're not speaking officially on behalf of the library, a lot of people will interpret that as that must be the position of the library. So I've got some best practices that suggestions for you when you get around to drafting a social media policy. And then finally, you want to minimize the legal risks, and not only the risk to the library itself, but to the employees. Now, a written social media policy will not eliminate all legal risk, but it will significantly reduce that risk